This time on Rad Rat Video, we're talking about my most hated video ever. Let's go. Welcome back to Rad Rat Video, a channel where I make videos about skateboarding and all kinds of different topics, including skateboarding video games, and I answer your questions here on Ask Rad Rat. Got a few of them for you today. Travis asks, do you feel that brand-created content is important for the sport? After years of consuming magazine marketing, it's easy to associate a skater with a brand, i.e. Day One Song, Almost, Mike V Black Label, Jamie Thomas Zero, but now we have so many places we can go to get content. Is it more important for the sport to just have better quality brands or better quality content to sell those brands? Just for background, I was a diehard independent truck rider, then I heard how they tank their quality and haven't seen anything on them since. So the question is it better to have better quality brands or better quality content to sell those brands? I guess it depends on whose behalf you're asking for. If you're asking on the behalf of skaters, then having better quality is more important. But if you're thinking about the company, branding is probably the most important part of having a company. I used to work, I'm a little biased. I've worked at a branding company before, and that was what we did. We would design a logo and a look and a feel. So there's a lot to that. It's not just what colors you use. It's like what voice you speak from when you write stuff. Are you is it really technical writing, or is it really down to earth? Is it more like cool, friendly? Like how do you communicate with your customers? And how do things look, and how does the packaging look, and how all that type of stuff is branding. In all of that, if you want to make your way, if you want to make up a company and have a brand and try to make your way in the marketplace, branding is super important. So yeah, if you want to have a company and you want to make the next truck, and you design the best truck that has ever come out, you've done all this math and all the engineering, and you figured out all the angles, and you know that this truck is going to perform better than any skateboarding truck that's ever come out, it's not going to sell unless it's well branded. And so yeah, like making content and having skaters to promote your brand, all that stuff is super important. For me, I would like to believe that I think more about quality than brand personally. You were talking about which skaters are, on which brands. If I'm going to go buy something at the skate shop, I need some new bearings or wheels or something like that, or grip tape. Like, I don't care who's on the company, like who's on the team. That means nothing to me, really. It means a little bit. If there's no pros on the team at all, I'm probably going to assume it's not a real brand. But if it's got a team, that's perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned. I would like to think that I'm more concerned with quality than the brand. But yeah, that's a tough question. If you are making a company, I would definitely be concerned with both, but that's different departments anyway. The guy who is designing the truck isn't coming up with all the ads. But yeah, having high quality stuff is great, but that company will probably get lost if they don't have the branding too. So that's why you have teams. If you just made a great product and you had to wait for people to tell their friends about it, it's too late. You're not going to stay around. Okay. The next question is from Spaghetti15, who says, thinner boards or wider boards? I prefer thinner boards, but the wider seem to be the go-to these days. Also, how do you feel about Tobey Maguire joining the MCU? Two totally different questions. Okay. Let's answer the second one first so I don't forget. Tobey Maguire, in theory, is supposed to be coming into Spider-Man 3. I doubt it's going to be something big. I think there's going to be like a part where they're showing all of the different worlds that there are, and you're going to see like a little hole is going to open up and you're going to see him doing something. I think that's going to be all that it is. If he is like a main character in Spider-Man 3, I don't think I would like it, because Spider-Man is about saving the city at the most. For the most part, he's like stopping someone who stole a car. At the most, he's saving the city from something. He's never saving the multiverse. Like, that's too big for Spider-Man. Spider-Man should be doing smaller stuff. I don't think I like that idea, but I will reserve judgment until that comes out. Okay, your main question was thinner boards or wider. It depends how you define those. So when I first started skating, I was on a 7.5. And my freestyle board is a 7.4, I believe. There's 7.25 as well, but to make it line up with the trucks right, 7.4 seems to be a little bit of a better choice. And they have their own pros and cons. You can flip a 7.5 a lot easier, but it's harder to like. I like boards that are bigger. I'm on an 8 and an 1/8, I think, is my current favorite size. I've been skating that for some time, and I just feel more confident trying to land something. Like if I do a tray flip and the board's like spinning around and I'm just going to like throw my feet down on it, if the board's bigger, there's a much better chance that I'm going to land in some way where I can roll away. If the board's thin, you got to land just right so that your toe isn't hanging off, you know? So like to me, I prefer a slightly bigger board. I haven't tried like a 9-inch board though. I feel like that might be a little bit much for weight and everything, and trying to do like a double kickflip or something might be a little bit tough on that. But if you like thinner, skate thinner. There's nothing wrong with that. Next question is from Jimbles, who says, "Hey Radrat, me and my friends at the park the other day were discussing all of the weird grabs that could be done and we never seen before. What do you think of someone doing a dark grab? What if someone aired out of a vert ramp, kickflipped halfway, caught it, and did a dark indie or something? What if a vert skater grabbed their truck on a front air? Have you ever heard or seen of any weird grabs like this? Do you think they'd be cool?" Well, your first one is called a dark side, which I don't think is a real trick so much as something that happens sometimes. So in the X Games, Bob Burnquist did a kickflip, and he caught it too soon. He wasn't intending to grab the board dark side, but he happened to. So he did the kickflip, caught it upside down, and he's not going to throw it away because it's a contest run. So he did like a half flip and landed it. And Tony Hawk was doing the commentary. He called it a dark side to fakie.
That was the dark side to fakie.
So that is a trick. That's what people call it. I don't see anyone really doing it on purpose. It's kind of a weird thing to do. If you would actually like do a half kickflip, catch it, have your feet on it, pull the board up to it. Weird? I mean, yeah, I don't know about that. Any kind of truck grabs, I don't see much use in that either. I'm not a big grabs guy. I mean, if you really tweak it out like crazy, that's cool. But for the most part, yeah, I'm more of a flip and catch and just float it down, especially on vert. If you can do a kick flip or a tray flip even with no grab, that's so much cooler. But yeah, anyway. Okay, the last question is from Dan, who says, "Hey Radrat, I was wondering, do you have any idea why your video, How Tony Hawk Ruined Hard Flips, has so many dislikes? I didn't see anything wrong with it and found it pretty informative, so why does it have over 2,000 dislikes?" Yeah, check that video out right there. I'm going to explain what I'm talking about in that video. You don't have to watch it. It's super awkward and uncomfortable. It's one of the first things I ever made on this channel. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I started the channel. There were two. First reason was to make that. I really wanted to talk about that topic. It had been on my mind for years. The second reason was so that I could play skateboarding games and call it work. So I could play a game and excuse it in my mind and say, I'm producing something, I'm doing work. That's why it's okay for me to play a game all day. Those were the two reasons why I started the channel, but that video in particular. So the point of it is essentially that the Tony Hawk games have hard flips wrong. The way that they look in the game, there's special tricks. There's different versions of hard flips. In Tony Hawk 1, there's a different version of a hard flip. There's a double hard flip in Tony Hawk 2. None of these are related to an actual hard flip. And the reason why that was a problem for me is that I grew up in a small town. There were maybe 5 skaters in my grade, and then one kid who was like 1 year before us in school, and I saw him try to kickflip a curb one time, and it was really impressive. You know, like that was the level of people at the school. You could probably do like a nose slide and a kickflip and a heel flip and a half cab. If you could do that kind of stuff, you were about normal. No one, like I learned how to tray flip and I was telling the kids at school and no one believed me. Like that's the level that things were at in my school. So nobody knew how to do a hard flip. Nobody could teach the next generation of kids how to do a hard flip. The only things we could learn from are like a trans world, which is a picture, so it's hard to really tell what's happening, and the Tony Hawk games. So when I would beat the games, and you get the clip from the pro that you just beat it as. That was like the only skate footage I had access to. So keep in mind, no skate shops. I can't go somewhere and buy like whatever skate video was out at the time. And I didn't have a credit card because I was a kid, so I couldn't buy one in a catalog. You couldn't really buy stuff online. I'm talking like 2003 or so. And so like a lot of what we learned was from the games, and the Tony Hawk games have hard flips wrong. And so everyone I knew who could do a hard flip, they did a different trick, and they all called it a hard flip, and they were all wrong. So the one guy who was like the head of the skateboard group at school, like the cool skater, he did like a pop shove it, and if he did a normal pop shove it and caught it like a tiny bit, that was a pop shove it. If he popped it harder and caught it pretty high, he called that a hard flip. And if you look at the game, I can't blame him for believing that. In Tony Hawk 2, when you do a hard flip, your back foot actually scoops backside slightly, and so it really just looks like a pop shove it. It looks like a really popped one, but it just looks like a pop shove it. And so he would do pop shove it's and call it a hard flip. And if you ever wanted to play skate or something, that's a hard flip. There was a kid I met at a skate park once. We were playing skate, and he did a hard flip, and it was a nollie pressure flip. Like, it was nollie. It wasn't even off the tail. It was a nollie pressure flip. So it flipped like an inward heel flip. He did a nollie pressure flip, and he would call that a hard flip. Like, nobody I knew what a hard flip was. And at the time, I remember I was online in all the forums, and I was debating with people and trying to learn and all that. And I remember learning that a hard flip is a front side shove it kick flip. And I would... like, no one would believe me on that. People would argue with me all the time. If I ever said that to somebody, they're like, no, that's an inward kickflip. You're crazy. That's not a trick. So like the games, not just the Tony Hawk games, there was Grind Session, and there was, I think there may be another one in that video too, but all the skateboarding games at the time had hard flips wrong. In fact, let's take a second and I'll show you. This is Grind Session. They've got vertical hard flips that look just like Tony Hawk, but even worse, they have an actual hard flip with a different name, and it goes a little bit further. So they have a frontside flip as its own trick. So you can do a kickflip and spin with it, but you can just do a frontside flip and it doesn't flip. So that kind of blurs the line a little bit with the frontside and kickflip combos that were so confusing. This is Thrasher. It's so low frame rate it's hard to tell, but it is vertical. This is X Games skateboarding, which is sort of like a vertical 360 shove it. In Evolution skateboarding, it's a varial kickflip, kind of hard to see. This is MTV skateboarding. It's like a back foot inward heel flip, I think. Kind of hard to tell. And then in Tony Hawk 3, they finally introduced the 360 hard flip as a special trick. But if you actually look at it close, it's a laser flip. And so people who didn't have access to actual skateboarders to teach them what a hard flip was, we all learned the wrong thing. And it's just kind of a story about what that was like and how the Tony Hawk games screwed us all over. Now, the reason why it has so many dislikes, all of the comments were like, you don't skate, or you have never done a hard flip before. Of course, you don't know what it is. You know, like, people just assuming that I don't skate. It was one of the first things I did on that channel, on this channel. So like, you don't know who I am. You don't know that I have any background in actual skateboarding or anything like that. I'm just talking about how a video game has a confusingly animated trick. And so a lot of people hated it. And that video blew up. That was the thing. So at the time, it was one of the first things I made. If I got 100 views, I would be pretty excited about it. And this got thousands and thousands and thousands and kept on going and going and growing. And it was because everyone hated it so much. So yeah, that's what that story was about. You can watch that right there if you want to, but it's super awkward. I think one of the other big problems with the video, if I was just naturally talking to you like this and kind of explaining the history of it and where I came from and all that, it wouldn't be as bad. But I have a script on my computer screen, and I have my camera just kind of like here, and I'm reading through the script while I'm on camera. So it's really awkward. And, I didn't want to miss any points or misspeak or say the wrong thing or anything like that. But, it just comes across really weird and like I'm just the super nerd, which is true, of course, but like the super nerd who has researched how a video game, but I don't actually know anything about skateboarding. Like that's what people assumed when they watched that. So yeah, that is my most hated video I've ever done, and I don't think it's that bad either. I think there's a lot of stuff you could watch that you wouldn't like, but that one, it's really not so bad. But that's it for now. If you have any questions, you can submit them through radratvideo.com. You can also submit them through Patreon, where you will definitely get an answer either through text or on camera. You can also support the channel by joining it here on YouTube, and you get some icons and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. So check all that stuff out, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.